Gonzo, 10 days in, no transfers. Are you enjoying the transfer window? Lots of rumours, lots of gossip, but not much news.
No, I know I can't say I'm particularly enjoying it. It's almost passing by without notice, to be honest with you. I often forget it is, actually. I don't know. Busy, back to work. You know, you sort of rely on the ticker tape on Sky Sports News. So no, it's a non-event, I think, for me, and I think it's a non-event for West Ham at the moment.
I enjoy it. Well, I don't know about non-event for West Ham. Why there's no signings? There's plenty of rumours of signings, lots of rumours. It's hard to keep up with all the bloody rumours. I've had to only include half of them for tonight's little script because the other, if we did the other half, we'd be here until deadline day probably. Let's talk about the outgoing. One of them, Colin and Burke, played against Shrewsbury.
Yes.
As per FIFA rules, you can only play for 2 clubs per season. So they play for Bolton, West Ham now. So their options are stay at West Ham for the rest of the season, or go back on Bolton on loan. Are you hoping to keep them both, or is there one in particular you think we should be loaning out, or would you be loaning them both?
Well, I think they both deserve a shot at the first team. I think that's fair. I think they've gone out and they've played competitive football as well. Out of the two, you'd have to say that Cullen would be the one, just purely because that's the area where we're struggling most. We do have quite a wealth of options at centre-back. So if anyone was more prone to going back, it would be Burke. But I would like to see them both retained. And I don't think correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the loan window closes quite as early as as whatever the permanent transfer window. I think you possibly there's a later date. So I don't think we're in a rush to make a decision yet. I also think Burke's versatility, that he can play as a right back if required, might be helpful as well, particularly as Oxford might have a niggle.
Yeah, I would keep them both. I mean, the other thing with Burke, I know you said right back, you can also play centre back, and that means you can then move Rice into centre midfield if you need to. Burke opens up a lot of options. Cullen can only sort of play centre midfield only, but Burke's got that versatile about him, but he has a knock-on effect of going into centre midfield, moving Rice. I would keep them both. You know, at the end of the day, they're not even both playing week in, week out at Bolton, are they? So it's not like, you know, Cullen, the game was going past him. There was literally no point in him being in the middle of the pitch at Bolton. So he'd be just as well playing for our under-23s week in, week out, in all honesty. Same with Burke. I would keep them, and I hope they get a couple of chances, to be honest. But anyway, the transfer window, do you think we need to spend a lot? We are sitting 14th, a few points off top half, but also a few points off the bottom 3. How much do you think we need to spend, or how much players do you think we need to buy this window?
Well, sometimes you can get a bargain, so it's not so much do we need to spend big money. I think we should spend money. I think we've cut our cloth. I think there seems to be a surplus of money after the Payet deal, and you've got to think at some point the move to the stadium's going to boost the coffers. Surely we should have really, whatever it is, I don't know, what, the 16th richest club in Europe or something like that. I certainly feel we should have more money than what we've rumoured to be having bid over the last couple of days for a couple of players that, quite frankly, I was shocked to see us bid for. The positions, centre midfield has been discussed. I think there's arguments you might need 2 centre midfielders. I think possibly we need one as a stopper and another one that can sort of carry the ball forward and make decent passes. Also, striker is an issue depending on who comes in and who goes, particularly as he's been playing Arnautovic and Antonio up there. And I also think there's a case to be made for a right back as well. So, you know, be that as cover for Zabaleta, or even just perhaps when we know those teams that have got a fast left-sided player like Rashford or whoever else that we know they're going to target Zabaleta, maybe it's wise to have a faster right-sided option there. So I certainly think the signings need to be made.
I think Byram covers Zabaleta, to be honest. I think Byram does that. I think Oxford and Burke also open up 3rd and 4th choice. I don't think we need a right back. I think we need 1 centre midfielder. 2, if the centre midfielder you buy is not adequate enough. Like you said, you need a ball player and a defensive shield. So players like Obiang and Noble do a bit of both. So if you buy someone that does a bit of both, I think you can get away with 1. But if you're going to go buy a specialist ball player who cannot defend, you need to then go buy 2. Right wing, maybe. I think you can maybe make a case for right wing, but it depends on Moyes wants to play, because currently he's not playing with 1. He's playing with a right wing back. And then striker Sakho goes, yes. If Sakho doesn't go, then not really. So I don't think we need to spend loads in all honesty, but it's about managing, sort of replacing who goes out sort of thing. But let's talk about the players we've been linked with. Now, the one that we know we're not going to go get, but let's discuss him for the sake of it, because I'd like to know if you wanted him. That's Coquelin. He's away to Valencia. It's pretty much agreed. It was about 10 million. He got linked to us briefly. Were you happy to see Coquelin linked to us, or was that a bit for you?
No, not at all. Actually, I was actually pleasantly surprised because I thought it was slightly left of field. I used to enjoy the days of not knowing what was coming, and we get so much information now, and you almost know who we're going to sign before we sign them. And I genuinely didn't have a clue. So I saw us linked to, oh, okay, that's interesting. It's also something I'd never given any thought to. But actually, the more I thought about it, well, actually, he's young, ish. He can tackle. And also he's technically okay. I think he was at Charlton. Was it Charlton? I thought he did. I think he went on loan to Charlton a while back, and he looked really good then, and he did so well. I think he got into the Arsenal team. I think he's all. I think he's all right. I think he certainly would have been able to do a job for us. I guess the fact that Valencia won him shows that that's the case as well.
He's a better defensive midfielder than what we've got currently. He would have become our #1 defensive midfielder. Put it like that. You can be a bit inconsistent. I understand why Arsenal want rid of him, to be honest. That when he got shrugged off the ball by Hazard, for any defensive midfielder to get beaten by strength. Now, Hazard's quite strong, but it's the way he got shrugged off the ball. That must have been the most embarrassing thing that's happened to him. He went flying in, bounced off Hazard, and went about 5 yards, ended up on his arse completely. And I've very rarely seen him in an Arsenal shirt since, to be honest. But I get why they're selling him. It would have been a nice deal, actually. It's quite cheap, 10 million in this window especially, but in the Premier League, even in the summer, it's quite cheap. It's quite a safe bet, that one, actually. That's not a risk. That 10 million signing would not have been a risk, in my opinion. But the one that is a risk, well, I say a risk, be more interested if you can A, pronounce it, B, you've heard of him, and that is the Belgian midfielder for Anderlecht. Have you heard of this guy?
Den Donker.
Well, see, I think he's pronounced Den Dunker, but I said that on the transfer show last night, but someone said he knows the Belgian league, but it didn't. Let's say Den Donker.
Den Donker sounds more rude, so I think you've got to go with Den Donker. And I think anyone they're all good names, aren't they? Really, have
you heard of him before?
Well, only because it's a joke name. It's like Wolfswinkel, isn't it? So, and Rod Fanny and Johan de Kock and Ralph Minge and all those sorts. So, I had to, so I knew him as a joke name because I think he appeared in a list of.
Like Diafra Sakho, that's another joke name.
Absolutely. Andre Muff, there was another one, and a one for the old boys, Peter Shirtliff, which is a good one. And there was another one. I think there was somebody called Arseman in the list. Something Arseman. Anyway, probably wasn't pronounced Arseman, probably Assman. But anyway, so I had to go. In terms of what player he is, I had to go and look at him. Hurriedly on YouTube, basically. I'm not going to claim to have any tactical inside knowledge of him. He looks okay, but I was pleased to see us linked with somebody that was young and had potential. Put it that way. I thought that was good, and also it was ever so nice to be linked with somebody that might cost 20-25 million rather than someone that costs sort of tuppence and a bag of crisps from Burnley.
Yeah, we'll get on to the tuppence and bag of crisps in a minute. Sounds like a cat, the next one. But going for this Belgium guy, I've seen him play about twice. It's a name you sort of recognise, but you don't really know much about. It's a bit like Batshuayi, really. It's sort of like a year ago, 2 years ago, we were like, oh, yeah, that guy, yeah. We all knew of him, but we didn't really watch him. So it's one of those, it's because he's held in such high regard around the bigger clubs in West Ham and England, like Man United and Chelsea were looking at him and are looking at him. That's what makes you want him a little bit. It's a bit like when, remember we were linked with Onyekuru in the summer and everybody got pissed off when we didn't get him. Now, yes. Nobody's ever seen, well, some have, but not many people have seen Onyekuru play. But because he was chased by Everton, we all thought, well, no, we want him now. That's who we want. If Everton want him, he must be half decent. We'll have him. But that's the type of player I want to see here. Someone that's young, someone who's held in high regard, and someone whose value can double in the space of one season. He has one good season at West Ham. He's worth 50 million. Because we'll come on to Lanzini in a second. He's had 2.5 years. 2.5 years here? I think he's had 2.5 years here now. And in 2.5 years, he's gone from 8 million to, well, we'll talk about his value, but let's say 50 million. He's gone pinging up in value. That's what you get if you buy young, buy good, and you get that. You give him the platform, you give him the potential. So it would be good to see us go for him. Do you think we'll get him? I mean, the underlying manager said you can have him if you pay for the money. If you pay the money, you can have him. Can you see it happening though?
Well, yeah, no. I mean, there's the thing. Can we get him? Yes, we can. Will we? Well, that's a different thing. So, can I see it happening? No, I can't, because we've seen this. We've seen this very recently with Carvalho, of course. So, a club give their price, and then we go in. It's with a loan offer or something. There are other people that will pay money for players that we just won't. So, I'm not confident, I've got to say.
Do you think this could be a potential thing between manager and Tony Henry? I know Moyes and Henry have got the past relationship, but the sort of onus is David Moyes will get to choose, and this is very much a Tony Henry sort of spot. And it's just, do you think there's a case of, well, if you go get him, that's all your budget gone, and David Moyes essentially gets to pick nobody?
Well, absolutely. David Moyes can choose who he wants. Because David Moyes choosing someone and going and getting somebody are two very, very different things, because it boils down to the same singular point, which is whatever happens or whatever's agreed in that room between Henry, Moyes, and Sullivan, it's still Sullivan that jumps on the plane and goes and doesn't negotiate him. And Moyes can want him all he wants. Sullivan can still go over there and come back and go, oh, a bit steep, I'm afraid, Moyes. So it's not the manager's desire to get a player. If that's who we've highlighted, that's who we've highlighted. It's the closing the deal on a big player. And unfortunately, we've seen two things, haven't we? We have seen that Carvalho thing, and not only did we see the report back from the sporting director, we also saw the email itself, and the email itself didn't cover itself in glory and suggest that is a way with which you conduct a multi-million-pound business deal. So I think the questions have got to be asked as to whether he can get the deal over the line.
Yes, sell him now, or I'm going to loan someone from Port Vale.
Absolutely.
But Harry Arter, now you've never been keen on him, but then the thing came out they would bid 5 million, he got rejected. Now I think the bid was actually 5 million plus another 3 million sort of add-ons, but the Sun decided to exclude that 3 million part. However, it's still sort of half prices to what Bournemouth are looking for. I don't know about you, but it feels like the world and his dog knows that Harry Arter is 15 million quid. Is it just me, or?
Well, okay, let's put aside. I don't want him, and is he worth 15 million quid? So let's just put that aside. But let's just say that's Bournemouth's valuation. It's a recurring theme. We bid far less, not just a little bit less. We bid far less. I even remember a few seasons ago, Luis Suarez was reported to have a buyout clause of 40 million. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And Arsenal bid £40 million and a penny, and they got really, really insulted for it. But you know what? I thought, fair dues. I mean, fair dues. If you were selling that Liam Gallagher poster behind you for £5.
By the way, not for sale. Just in case.
It's not for sale. But why would I go and offer you £10 for it? It's £5. Do you know what I mean? If you said any bids, that's what you'd do on eBay, isn't it? You'd put, if it was over £5, but £5 a penny. So I didn't get that. We go way lower. We're far worse than that. So I find the whole thing very, very worrying. And the longer it goes on, not particularly in this transfer window, because I still think the transfer window has still got half of it left to play out. I get that. That's absolutely fine. But I just mean in the whole bigger picture, and I find my mind now reverting back to the reason why we moved. And I've still yet to see a player come in who we couldn't have got at Upton Park. And it's still in my mind that we've had one world-class player in the last few years, whatever, 10, 15 years, we've had one world-class player and we sold him. So that is still in my mind.
It is a bit deja vu. I will say that. I mean, I would almost rather we just made no bid, to be honest. If they think Harry Arter 50 million, and the club go, oh, he's not worth that. We thought 8 million. Just don't bid. Like, if you're that far away from the valuation, then let's just agree to disagree, move on to your next target. But I remember doing the transfer show with Jason a couple of nights ago, or last night even, and he was right. It smacks of us trying to turn a rival player's head a little bit, like we did with Snodgrass, Remember that it came out. We put in was it 2 million or something? We bid £3 million for Snodgrass. The Snodgrass went, I want to go, and Hull were like, well, no, because they've only bid 3 million. And Snodgrass was like, no, I'm going. They want me. I'm going there. And it was a case of, well, we have to agree a deal now because you've just took our player. You do wonder if that's the game here. We'll bid 5 million. Harry R stomps his feet. I want to go, and it's a case of, well, we're going to have to agree something now, aren't we? And it's not going to be that 50 million you're wanting, by the way. So it's got that a little bit about it. Someone that are waiting to play next week. I just find it a little bit lacking in class because we went after Arthur just before we played them on Boxing Day, and I thought that's just lacking. Fine, you're playing them in a few days. Just leave it. But next player, Scott Arfield. This is your packet of crisps and tuppence. But why are you laughing?
I've no idea who the geezer is. And listen, I mean, how many times I see Burnley? I've seen Burnley. I've seen Burnley play live 3 or 4 times in the last, few years. I've got no idea who the bloke is. Why are we bidding for this bloke? He couldn't have stood out in a match. I don't know. Is it?
I think you're being a bit disrespectful, to be honest. I think you're being. Burnley are 7th.
Who is he? I've no idea who the bloke is.
He plays on the left wing, but he's played like.
Well, why is he only cost 2 million then?
Because he's 29. His contract's up in the summer.
Is it? Well, all right.
If you were a Chelsea fan, it'd be like, Billy, you going 50 million. Why is he only 15 million? Because for Chelsea, that's cheap in relation to Barkley. 2 million, it is a bit of a bar. But I tell you what, nobody's going to be going and getting Arfield in the back of their shirt, put it like that. But
I think all the A's have run out anyway, mate, to be fair.
He's a David Moyes player. He's a grafter. He works hard. He started I think he started, I could be wrong, I think he started 15 games for Burnley this season. And they're 7. Sean Dyche, who is getting plaudits from far afield, trusts him. And for 2 million, I'll tell you what, we want more for Reece Burke, who has played no games in the Premier League for 3 seasons now. He hasn't played a game in the Premier League for 3-4 seasons, and we want more than 2 million for him. This guy's playing every second week.
Do you know what? You've just made it sound worse. You've just made it sound worse. I didn't know, and now you've told me he's a 29-year-old grafter. Crikey. I'm more disheartened than when you started. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm sick of this absolute rubbish. Why are we going after? Listen, he's probably a very nice man and all the rest of it, but this is not what was meant to happen at West Ham. I can't believe it, really.
Because I didn't say. I'm not trying to say, yeah, it's a no-brainer to go for it. I just think we're doing him I just think we're being disrespectful to him because he's a decent player. He's not amazing. To play my own devil's advocate, I'm not sure he would start if we bought him. I'm not sure when we did our 11. I'm not sure quite often I'd be saying, oh yes, Arfield today, please. I'd like that. It wouldn't happen very often. But to get a 21-year-old version of him, it would cost you 32 million, not 2 million. And let's be honest, we ain't got 32 million.
Well, we should bloody have 32 million.
but we don't. But let's talk about the number 1 target. It's quite clear who the number 1 target is now. You've wanted them for a while. I've been looking forward to doing this cup of tea, actually, for you to talk about him, Jonjo Shelvey, because you've been, whenever we do questions at the end of the show, people say, who will you buy? Quite often you say, oh, Jonjo Shelvey, please. I wouldn't mind him. It's here now. It looks like it's going to happen. 12 million. Oh, come on. You're not a way to say I don't want him anymore.
No, I just never expected it. It's not something I ever expected to happen. Yeah, you're right. I've been saying it for a couple of years now. Look, I saw him at Charlton. He's a West Ham fan. He was good enough for Liverpool to want to sign him. And well, they never sign anyone crap today. But I just always like the idea of him. I think he's got a bit of grit. All right, he's a bit of a nutter as well. But he's also able to pass the ball. He's got a little bit of quality. I think he joins the attack. I think he plays between the lines, and I think he works quite hard as well. And it's like you said about Coquelin would improve our midfield. This guy would improve our midfield as well. I think the rumoured figures 12 million. I think that's about right. Probably. I don't know how much Liverpool signed him for actually, or sold him for or anything. But yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for a West Ham fan as well. I like that, particularly having lost Tompkins a little while back, and I think with some of the younger players coming through who are going to be more in tune with a vibe and the spirit of the club, I think to get another one in would be good. But it's not doing anyone any favours. I do think he's a good player, and I do think he would improve the midfield, which is sadly lacking.
But where does he go in the centre midfield? Is that where you'd play him in centre midfield? Because if we're sticking with this 5-3-2, he's got to go centre midfield, really. The geezer don't tackle. Well, when he does, he gets a booking for it, but he doesn't trap back. He wants to attack and doesn't want to go back. I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'll give my thoughts in a second, but if you're going to put him in there, and we are already conceding 3 goals to Bournemouth and Newcastle, do you not think we need to shore up what is an attack defence already?
No. I think there's too many people defending. All we're doing is defending. But you say he doesn't want to defend. He just wants to attack. Thank goodness. Crikey. Someone needs to attack. We've been playing games and having no shots and no possession. I think it's exactly what we need. We've got loads and loads of defenders. I mean, you've also got the issue... I think Masuaku needs someone. So Masuaku's trying to attack. Somebody said earlier on about they're worried about bids from Lanzini and Masuaku. No one's going to come in from Masuaku. He's got no end product yet. But he needs someone to play with. Lanzini needs someone to play with. The defenders have got lots of people to play with. We need somebody that's going to pass the ball and be able to get the ball to people like an Arfield and be able to play with players like Masuaku to just bring a little bit more quality to the forward line. I think by and large, we've seen with Shrewsbury, we've seen with Arsenal, we've seen with Tottenham, we are going to be playing defensive football. We need someone that can start to attack, and that's why I bring him in. It wasn't my first choice, but you're right. I brought him up over years and years. It looks like we're not getting Wiltshire and we're not getting some of these other players. So if it's a choice between, I've even forgotten the geezer's name. What's the geezer's name again at Burnley? Arfield. A choice between Arfield or Arter or anyone else beginning with I'll bring Shelvey in.
I think you can get both, to be honest. I don't think Arfield's that his wages won't be much. But anyway, back to Shelvey. I'm torn on this one, actually. It's not very rare I get torn on a player. Like I'm an opinionated little bugger. I know that, but I always thought Shelvey was best as a number 10, like in behind the striker. I've never seen him as a centre midfielder. I know Newcastle play him there, but the fact they're selling him, in my opinion, shows that he shouldn't be playing there. When he was at Swansea, he played ahead of the centre midfielders. He had Leon Buttons, someone else behind him, Canizas or Fernandez or Hernandez or whoever was in behind him. And he had Dyer and Routledge either side of him and Boney ahead of him. He was good. He was getting assists and he was getting goals. Newcastle are playing in centre mid. He's got 0 of each so far, although I think he had one against Liverpool. It's not been credited to him, but it was pretty much his assist. It came off my teep and someone scored. But my problem here is he an upgrade on Chiati or is he actually a downgrade on Lanzini? Which is he? He's both, in my opinion. But where's he going to go? Because if he goes centre midfield, he is an upgrade on Chiati. But you've already said we play defensive as it is. We're going to be playing even more defensive with this bloke in centre midfield because they're going to be running down the middle of the pitch. That's all they're going to have to do. You talk about attacking Zabaleta, fucking hell, just attack the middle of our pitch. If you've got... Obiang can't play without Noble, okay? In my opinion. Obiang needs told what to do. Noble does that. You put Obiang next to Chiati, put Obiang next to Rice. It just doesn't work. Noble's the key factor for Obiang. You cannot have Noble, Obiang and Shelvey in centre of the pitch because where's Lanzini going? How are you going to set the rest of the team up? Listen, I think he's a good player. I'm just not convinced he's the answer. I'm a bit dubious about this one. He's a really good player, but I just think he's a number 10. I think he's the wrong position for us. But
I'm not convinced he's the answer either, Gio. And listen, I mean, the majority of the time I've been saying Shelvey should come in. We've not had David Moyes as manager. Let's get that straight. I understand what you're saying there, mate. He doesn't defend. Make sure of one thing: David Moyes doesn't defend. It'd be in our 18-yard box. Never mind in the opposition's one. What I don't think we can do is go out primarily to get a midfielder that can tackle. Whilst I think we need one, we do also, as I said at the start, need somebody that can attack as well. And whoever Whoever gets dropped for him, I don't know. But somebody, and at the moment, it wouldn't be Noble, of course, because Noble's the one who's looks all right. But somebody needs to be dropped because it's totally dysfunctional.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, I actually think it'd be good to have someone in the middle of the pitch that can hit a 40-yard diagonal pass on the edge of the 18-yarder and release an Arfield and stuff. I actually think that's good. My problem is, who does he replace? Like, it's almost like he's replacing Lanzini, and that's a no-go, in my opinion. So, I just don't get how he fits in all honesty. Obviously, I'm not going to bash Chiati. I've made a promise to myself. I'm not going to speak negative about Chiati tonight. But he's obviously not in contention, and that leaves Shelvey, Obiang, Noble. Now, for me, the best partnership in that is probably Noble and Obiang, because you get okay defensive cover and you get okay going forward. Shelvey will give better attacking options in both of them, but you lose a hell of a lot defensively, and we're not good enough defensively to lose what we've already got. So that's just... Anyway, we'll move on and we'll talk about Shelvey if it happens in more detail. And let's talk about the guy I mentioned a couple of times, Lanzini. Liverpool obviously flush for cash. They want Lamar, Mahrez. Both of them are a bit... Well, Lamar's 90 million. Mahrez is a bit... And there's a lot of talk about Lanzini. Can you see him going to Anfield? Is he good enough for Liverpool, in your opinion?
Well, I don't see that Liverpool have an awful lot of choice. There's not some big wealth of centre attacking midfielders, let's say. I know Coutinho played the left, but let's just call it that. Or number 10s, call it number 10s. There's not some big pool of them throughout the world that Liverpool can go and get. And they're not going to go and get someone as good as Coutinho, because if they were, then Barcelona would have bought him anyway. So they've got to get someone. It's like you said with a fella, old Dendonka there. He's going to improve and he's going to be better. So Liverpool will be looking to buy a player and hoping that then he can become as good as Coutinho. So I think they know they're not going to buy the finished article. Can Liverpool do what they want? Liverpool can do what they want within our league, with the exception of Chelsea, Manchester United and Manchester City. Liverpool can do what the hell they want. They've proved it. And if they come and waft a load of money under anyone's nose, they're going to be able to, apart from the clubs I mentioned, they'll be able to buy anyone's player. They've just got 146 million quid.
Yeah, the thing is, I actually think Lanzini is good enough. The problem is he doesn't look it at West Ham. I was speaking to someone, but you know fine, I'm a massive fan of Lanzini. As soon as I seen him play, that guy's gifted. There's a lot to be said about how someone dribbles, in my opinion, because... And it's the way he dribbles, the way he moves his body without moving the ball, it's the way he dribbles outside of his foot, stuff like that I really like about him. I always say to people that the reason he doesn't look that great this season is because when you're at Liverpool or De Bruyne at Man City, now I know I'm going to the elite here in the Premier League, but that's what I'm doing because he's going to Liverpool, well, targeted by Liverpool. Coutinho, De Bruyne, Ozil, these players receive the ball in between the midfield and defence. They get the ball, turn around, they're facing a back line, and off they go. Striker makes a move, they're pulling defenders out, they're in that area that is dangerous. If Lanzini wants the ball at West Ham, he's got to go get it off fucking Ogbonna. He turns around and he's got an attacking midfielder to beat, a defensive midfielder to beat, then he's up against the... It's just, if you get Lanzini and plonk him into a top six team and he starts receiving the ball in all these pockets of space that the current players at those clubs do, you'll see it. Player you'll think he was not West Ham. He is, but you need to unlock him. And that's why when we had Payet, that's why he sort of frustrated you on the left, but he was up against a right back and that was it. If you took him in the middle, you'd have a defensive midfielder and stuff. But that's why when we had Payet, I wanted Lanzini centre midfield to do those passes to Payet in that space, because you need someone to, like I said to you, create for the creative. Now that's what Shelvey can do with us. But I think he is good enough for these clubs, you know. I wonder if maybe Klopp's looking at Lanzini and thinking, you know, he could probably replace Wijnaldum in that midfield as an attacking centre midfielder rather than an attacking midfielder as such. Because he's got Salah, he's got Firmino, he's got Mane if he wants to on the left. Wijnaldum's probably the weakest link now in front of Emre Can and next to Henderson. Adam Lallana's position, if you like. I think he is good enough, and it does. Are you worried that he's going to go though?
Yeah, because I also think he's good enough. As you know, how many times have I said Lanzini needs someone to play with? You know, multiple times, and it's just people aren't on the same wavelength as him. If he goes to Liverpool, there'll be plenty on the same wavelength as him. But funny enough, we had to a certain extent with, it's always bad. I mean, Di Canio. I used to watch Di Canio get frustrated because people just weren't on his wavelength. He'd give the ball to someone to go and play a 1-2, and he wouldn't get it back. And if you hold on, well, clearly in his mind that was to try. He was thinking 3 or 4 moves ahead, as top players do. They don't just. Whereas a limited player deals with it in and out. Oh, the ball's at my feet. What am I going to do now? A top class player has already taken a look around him. He knows where the plays. He's already thinking 3 or 4 moves ahead. So I think he would. I think he would go. I think he would thrive, and because of that reason, I think they would want him. I do understand the link with Mahrez as well, because I think Mahrez is also a very, very good player. So I can understand that. But yeah, I'm definitely concerned about it because I think he is our best player.
How much? What's the price? What would you be happy with?
Well, I don't think it matters, Geo. And I will give you a figure of what I would do. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's 40 million, 50 million, or 60 million. Okay. And you can go up as high as you want because we've already got a blueprint, which is that Virgil van Dijk is cost 75 million. So we know what a player is worth, even though it's a centre back. Arguably Southampton's best player, whatever. We have a blueprint there. Not, I think we'd get 75 million from Lanzini. But the reason it doesn't matter how much, because can anyone say hand on heart that they're confident that if we got 50 million, that Sullivan would invest it? Well, I mean, we got 25 million from Payet, and look, we ended up getting Font and Snodgrass. Now, regardless, you can make your merits as Snodgrass and get a fair chance. He's doing all right at Villa, and Font's all right, but that is no way to replace a world-class player. I've got some nasty feeling that if we got 50 million for Lanzini, we would end up with a 20 million pound player, 2 10 million pound players, and they might not even work out. You could end up with a 20 million pound player, which will Ayew cost, and so on and so forth. I am not confident in that at all, and that is what worries me, because at the end of the day, whatever money comes in, it's still Sullivan that will go out and spend it. And for that reason, I don't think there's any way we would get a player in comparable to what we'd lose with Lanzini.
Fellaini, it would be my one. Fellaini. Do you think this is why we're maybe getting Shelvey and Dilly Donker? And do you think Dilly Donker could go in beside Noble and that, and Shelvey actually go? Well, this is because I'm biased as to why I think Shelvey's position is, and push Shelvey forward into that role. I mean, it wouldn't satisfy fans. We think that's possibly sort of the backup plan, or the bid comes in, we move for this Dilly Donker boy and get him in.
Look, okay. Payet is not for sale at any price. We need to be bringing in players to play alongside Payet. Those were the words. If now Payet's gone, if we sell Lanzini, I mean, it is all over. The final little sparkle of that dream we were sold about leaving the bowling has gone. I mean, it is just gone. With everything, it would be the final lie. It would be the final thing that's basically everything we've ever been told. The other one was we're not a selling club. Actually, we are. You might be able to twist it. And say that Payet was because of all those reasons, and he pushed the move, and it could only be Marseille, and he was having it off with some bird, and this, that, and the other, allegedly. And it's too late now, isn't it? But you might say that. But if we go and sell Lanzini, it is all over. And I'll tell you what, if you top that off, and as it looks, we might discuss this in a second, that we hold that for an extra 5 million for Reece Oxford. Honestly, we might as well all pack up and go home, because it's just been the biggest whopping great lie. If we're not, never mind Shelby and Dilly Donker coming in to replace Lanzini, let's have Dilly Donker and Shelvey to play alongside him. And then we might actually believe that we're going to go somewhere and we're showing some ambition. And the only reason we didn't spend on Carvalho in the summer was because they knew they were getting rid of Bilic. So where is that pot? We want that pot of money. Let's spend it. And those are my thoughts. And it'd be a disaster to sell Lanzini.
How much then? I know you say you were going to give you a price. So how much?
How much would they take? How much would they take? Is that what we're asking?
Both. How much would they take, and how much would you? Before, because we would do a show. If Lanzini sold, we would do a show. How much would it have to be for you to come on the show and go, actually, we've got a decent fee here, actually? We didn't want him to go, every player's got a price, though. That price is actually fair.
if we put aside who's spending the money, so if we actually had a really good director of football that I thought could, okay, then I would probably say, actually, if his head had been turned and he wanted to go to Liverpool, and we got 65 million for Lanzini with a really good recruiter, then I would say, okay, look, he was going to go. You've probably done the best deal you can. Let's go and get the best young player in France or whatever. Let's go and get the best Dutch young player, the best French. And let's go and spend 35 million on him and 35 million on him, and then make them into 65 million pound players. I think Sullivan's head would be turned for a lot less than that. I think they could come in with 43 million, let's say, and get him. And I don't, that's a lot of Jimmy Arfields or whatever his name is. I know, but it wouldn't get us what we want.
I think 40 is sort of the biting price for Sullivan. My problem is Lanzini's not a David Moyes player, and the problem is we've got a guy in charge of the team and arguably in charge of recruitment. He's got a 40, 50, 60 million pound player there. Doesn't really fit into his system, and that's a worry for me because Moyes might be thinking, if I sell him, I can get in 3 or 4 players I actually really want. That does fit my system. If Lanzini goes, that's the end of Arnautovic, really. His supply is just gone, dried up completely as well. 60 million is what it would take me to come on here and go, we've done okay. And I'd like to see us go get 230 million players, to be honest, but no more players than 2, not 320 million, it's not 415 million, it's just 2 big players. But we'll cross this bridge when we come to it, but we've not heard the end of this Lanzini to Liverpool thing, I don't think. We've been sporadically linked to this Russian striker again. Sounds like a Disney cartoon prince or something. Fyodor Smolov or whatever. We've been linked to a Bal centre-back tonight, a 22-year-old. Sakho to Crystal Palace, 10 million. Yes, no, would you take it? Are you happy? See you later. Bugger off.
Take anything you can for Sakho. Take anything you can. He's out of contract.
Well, we've got a 2-year thing. We can.
Oh, have we?
Yeah, we can add 2 years onto his contract. So essentially...
Well, that's strange then. I didn't know that. Well, in which case, you probably shouldn't be helping a rival. Having said that, I think Palace will survive anyway because I think Zaha's and Kabay and Benteke to a lesser extent, I think they've got enough to survive. The strange one about Sakho is, of course, that attitude aside, put his attitude aside, I think he's the guy that probably best suits David Moyes in what David Moyes requires as a striker. So it's a bit of a strange one, really, but I didn't know about the 2-year thing, actually. I think that changes things. Having said that, do we really want to exercise a clause in someone who doesn't want to be here,
No, I'd get rid of him. I'm not really... Part of me thinks, do not sell him to relegation. I'm not sure Palace is one. I'm a bit like you. I think they'll be fine. It's, Swansea, West Brom, Stoke, maybe Bournemouth, and then the 3 promoted clubs. Do not sell Sakho to those. Please do not sell them to him. But we play Palace at the end of January, or 10 days time.
Soon, yeah.
You know what's going to happen, don't you? We're going to sell him to Palace, and he's going to rock up at London Stadium, banging his first goal for Palace in a 1-0 victory, and send us into the bottom 3 for the weekend.
Down our end of the stadium as well.
Probably it's always seeing opposition goals. There's links with Hernandez to going back to the MLS, but we'll speak about that next time because we're running out of time. Get your questions in. I've got a few from Twitter. We'll crack on with them in a second. There's one little rant I want to have, Gonzo, because I've seen someone on Twitter say it. Said it was a bit of a joke, but then someone piped up, genuinely being serious. Someone jokingly said, "Oh, but Sullivan's working around the clock," and then someone replied, going, "Oh, he genuinely is one of the hardest working chairmen." My rant is, you shouldn't be working that long. If you're good at your job, you don't work that many hours in a day. I remember going home early once. Well, I say once, but quite a few times. Not my current job, in case my current employer's working.
Today, I remember you saying that only today, Geo, that you were leaving early, and then drinking at work, weren't you? Drinking.
A few jobs ago, when I was in retail, I remember going home. My manager basically said, jokingly, "Going home early again, are you?" I said, "You don't need to worry about me going home earlier. It's the manager's doing overtime and still not getting his job done you need to worry about. The fact that I can go home early and my job's done is a good thing." And the fact that Sullivan has to work so many hours, to me, indicates he's not doing a good job. If he was good at his job, he would be able to do, I don't know how many hours in transfer window, but not that many, enough. And his job would be fine. But it's the fact that he has to do so many. That's a problem. It's a bit like the highest wage bill. Remember David Gold boasts about it. Oh yeah, 13th highest wage bill in the world. That's not a good thing, pal. When you're in the bottom 3 and you're paying out the 13th highest wage bill in the world, it's not a good thing. It's bad management. And this is bad management by David Sullivan, in my opinion. But anyway, first question, Sam. Remember Sam from the summer?
Oh yeah, he asked it. We did a regular thing. Yeah.
To be fair, he never asked this question, but I'm going to ask it on behalf of Sam anyway. How worried are you? Transfer window 1 to 10. How worried are you?
6, because there's still time. If it was later on in the window, you'd be getting a very different answer.
Yeah, I'm about a 4. I'm quite calm compared to you. Remember in the summer and even though you were creeping up, I always remained quite low. I think it was about relegation actually, but I don't think we need much. I think we need one centre midfielder. If you get it right, you only need 1, maybe 2. And we're only a third into the chance. There's still 66% of this window left. It's a long time. Not many clubs have done business yet either. A few clubs have done 1 signing. I don't think anyone's done 2 yet, actually. And I include the top 6 in this. I don't think anyone's done 2 signings yet. And half the signings so far in transfer in the Premier League were sort of pre-arranged. Barkley, Van Dijk, Silva to Leicester. They were all done before the window opened. I'm calm. Right, Twitter, Curtain Hammer. What's the bare minimum for the board in this transfer window?
What that they should do? Well, you don't know. I'm asking you, not him. What do you think it means that the board should be spending?
Well, it's what when the transfer deadline day shuts, what do they have to have done for you to not sit there and go, he's not done enough?
I expect an absolute top-class midfielder to be in place with that money that had obviously been earmarked for Carvalho. And I would also expect whatever has gone out to be replaced. So if we do lose Sakho, then I expect a striker in, and not just some numpty. I expect it to be in the mould of which the manager wants.
Danny Ings?
So you bang on it. I don't mind. I've got nothing against Danny Ings. I've just not seen a lot of him for a long, long time since he's been injured. So, yeah, I'd be happy with that, I'm sure.
I had to sneak him in somewhere in the show. I think as long as David Moyes is happy, but it's got to be David Moyes is genuinely happy. None of this David Sullivan saying that David Moyes is happy. David Moyes has got to say he's happy. As long as the manager's happy, that's what's got to happen for me. He's got to be backed. The Rios B said, do you think Lanzini wants out? Not do you think he'll go? Do you think he wants to go?
I think you've got to realise that Lanzini is not a West Ham fan. He didn't grow up in Buenos Aires or wherever it is, dreaming of pushing, through the turnstiles and, the East Stand at Upton Park. His head is going to be turned. He'll look at players like Salah and Mane and think, I can actually load the bullets for these guys. I think he probably would want to go. Do I think he's going to agitate for a move like Payet did? No, because I think he's probably a more classy individual. But I think if you didn't support West Ham, you had no allegiance, you've got to take your West Ham hat off. Why wouldn't you want to go and play for a team in the Champions League that are free scoring? They don't get, if there's an opposite to what David Moyes does, it's what Klopp does. And I think if I was a really good attacking midfielder and I had no allegiance to West Ham from a foreign country, I'd probably want to go and play for Liverpool and all.
Yeah, I think he has to go. It's not. I think he genuinely has to go as well. He's too good for us in a way. I think he's being strangled in the style that we're playing. He's being strangled by the players he's playing with. For him to listen, he plays for one of the best countries that you could play for in the world as well. If he wants to play for that country, whether it's at the World Cup or the Copa America, he's got to be playing at a big club probably to get onto that stage and say, I'm good enough to play alongside Higuain, Dybala, etc. He's got to be playing those. I don't blame him if he wants to go. Listen, I always say, has a player repaid his fee, 8 million, he's more than repaid it for me. We'll get a shed load of profit as well. So I don't blame him. I won't hold that against him if he wants to go to Liverpool. Good club for him to go to as well, by the way. I think that's a good fit. Them or Arsenal. If I was Lanzini, to get the best for Lanzini, I think he should go to Liverpool or Arsenal. Sean D. James says, are you surprised nobody has come in for Masuaku?
No, he looks really good. He's very exciting. He's good. He's a very, very, very skillful player, but he's big clubs. If anyone's going to come in for him, it would be, you would imagine, surprise him away from a club like of our size. It would be a big club. He doesn't assist or score enough goals yet. He's only just transitioned position. I think big clubs would look at him and they want to see a little bit more than that. And you only got to look at the rate with which people assist and score goals at big clubs to realise I don't think there's any threat of doing that yet, particularly not for a big fee.
I have to agree. All he has to do is have a look at Marco Alonso over at Chelsea, and until he's doing that, he's going to be at West Ham. But he's certainly got the potential. Adam_Nichols1 says, is Hernandez underperforming, or is he sort of strangled by the style of David Moyes?
Well, some things it's not either or, Adam. Sometimes things are both things are true, and I think both things are true there. As I feel sorry for him in many respects, because I think we bought a poacher. I think he was probably sold a dream in many respects. Come to us, you'll be our top earner. A poacher. Actually, Bilic didn't fancy him. Moyes doesn't fancy him, and I think it's got him down so much that he's made the wrong move. He made the wrong choice, and I think it's got him down so much that he's just not trying really anymore. I mean, didn't get past the ball once in the box, really, did he, in the last game? So I think for all reasons, it's sort of over. The only prohibitive thing is going to be his wages. Will someone pay him? You know, it's like Geo said a minute ago. You know, is it clever having the 13th highest wage bill or whatever the case may be? And I'm sorry, whatever the stat was, I can't remember. Yeah. Seventh, mate. Seventh. But whatever it was, is it clever? Not really. Is it clever that Chicharito earns more money than Harry Kane? Well, no, it's not something to boast about, actually. It's David Levy or Daniel Levy who could be boasting about that. It's not worked out for him. We're not getting the best out of him. And because of that, his head's down. And I just think it's all over.
I think it's a bit of both as well. His attitude doesn't help. He's not used to being the main striker. Well, he was at Leverkusen, I suppose. But at Man U, Real Madrid, he was used to coming off the bench late on and stuff. And it's a completely different thing to starting games and being the focal point. But Bilic's style didn't suit him. Moyes' style's not suiting him. It's just, I've never been so disappointed in a signing, I don't think, Gonzo. I remember when he signed, everybody was so excited. Everyone was saying we've got a nearly world-class striker. He was a world-class finisher. He's maybe not a world-class striker, but he's as close as West Ham can buy. You know, we didn't really care about the wages back then. It was pay what you have to pay and get him in. And credit to Sullivan, he did it. But now, 6 months down the line, we're looking at it going, well, fuck. You know, he's on a long deal here. Who's going to take him? You know, the next manager, or Moyes, whichever one, has to get him. He's still the best finisher at our club.
Yeah,
he's not turned crap overnight. Okay, I do think that while we've been talking about this, you didn't say it. You never said, "Oh, he's turning a crap player." It's a bit his attitude and it's his confidence.
Well, listen, sorry, just if I can just come in there. We talked about a load of relegation teams today. A lot of those guys who are going to be in and around the relegation area, they're going to be down there because they're desperate for a goal scorer. Everyone wants a goal scorer. We actually have one, but we don't know how to utilise him. Chicharito will be able to go to any number of teams, and he will score goals if you get him the correct service. The trouble is his wages are so high. Swansea aren't going to be able to afford to take him. Actually, the only guys that can really afford him are going to be one of the top 6 clubs who don't want him and don't need him, or China or somewhere like that. And I think that's the situation we're stuck with, because whilst 16 million might be a bargain for someone who guarantees goals if you feed him right, 135 grand a week is a lot of money.
I'd like to see him up front with Arnautovic, though. I would like to see that happen before we completely write him off. That needs to happen. Chris, a.k.a. says, if we're playing 4-4-2, for example, and we've got Shelvey, who's your 2 centre midfielders? We've sort of had this debate earlier, but I knew this question was coming, so I didn't ask you during the debate.
Well, I'll answer the question because he's asked the question. I don't think we will play 4-4-2. I just don't think we.
Well, but that's why he's adding that, because it's hypothetical.
Well, if he played 4-4-2, you wouldn't sign Jonjo Shelvey. I don't think he would play in a 4-4-2. Would be my answer. If you ask the question is where would he fit in? I think you'd buy somebody else.
No, he's asking if you played 4-4-2, who would be your 2 centre midfielders?
Oh, at the moment,
No, and we've got Shelvey. We buy Shelvey, and you're playing 4-4-2.
I'll probably go with Rice and Noble at the moment. I've got to say would be my 2 in a 4-4-2, which is
Obiang and Noble for I. Jazza says, would you sign a young right back? Well, you've already answered that, really, haven't you?
Yeah. Although, I mean, to be fair, when I said it, I'd sort of forgotten about Byron, bless him, because, yeah, I mean, I'd like to see Byron. I think actually Byron would do well under Moyes because he's that sort of, look at Seamus Coleman and Leighton Baines and all the rest. I think he's the type of guy he likes. I'd be quite willing to give him, particularly, he's not really right back, is he? He's not playing right back now. He's playing with a right wing back. I think he'd do quite well because he's good at attacking Byron. So, yeah, I mean, if he was fit and ready, I think it would stop us having to buy one, as Geo suggested.
Yeah, Byram for me. I've always liked Byram. I like Byram. Daz says, is David Moyes only having our, whatever you want to call it, an undecided future as an excuse not to sign players?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think his future is undecided. I think he's here. I think he's here. I even think he would possibly still be here even if we got relegated. But I think certainly if we avoid relegation, the job is his. I don't think his future is uncertain. There's certain noises and certain decisions coming out which indicate he's here and he knows he's here, and the owners have said, no, you're going to be here. I think at 22, the fact that we're linked with it, and I do think we are interested in this 22-year-old midfielder, says an awful lot. That's a signing of someone that's going to be around for a few years. I think the whole Oxford thing, the fact that he's willing to take his time and look at Oxford, this is not, they're not the words and the signs of a man who's only got 4 months of a contract left.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think he is here, and we'll discuss whether that's the right thing or not in another show. But I think he's here as well, because I was speaking to Mike after the video we did, and I said to Mike, David Sullivan struggles to buy players. Okay, he struggles to identify them and then go and get the deal done. The only thing harder than buying a player is signing a manager. So the easiest thing for David Sullivan is, if Moyes remains his manager, he then doesn't have the hardest thing to go and do in the summer. That decision is almost taken out his hands by default. Oh, well, he stayed up, you keep the job. And I think you're right. Even if we did go down, the thing would become, well, there's no one more experienced than David Moyes that wants the job. Right, okay. Gary says, do you think we're maybe holding off on signing players because injured players are returning? So you've got Byram's back. To be fair, everybody's back except Fernandez and Antonio.
No, I don't, because I do think the area that needs strengthening is in the centre of midfield, and I think it looks like everyone is back in that area with the exception of Fernandez. No, I mean, funny enough, the one player I do think would have done absolutely tremendously well, I feel ever so sorry for him, actually. His injury has come at a horrendous time for him. Is Nathan Holland, because I actually think if anyone had the pace and the delivery to transition from a defensive team into we need to get up the pitch quickly and with skill, I'm pretty sure he would have been involved in the team. So I wouldn't be surprised, and I think he's back late February. I wouldn't be surprised if we're not getting a left-sided player because of him, because I do see him as being somebody that can play within the current system. Midfielders, no, I don't think we're holding off. I think we need to get someone for that. I don't think we're waiting for anyone to come back.
Yeah, I think we're definitely in the market for centre midfielder, and I think we'll get a striker if Sakho goes and when Sakho goes. Ryan, another hypothetical question because the option is not there, but if you could, would you recall Robert Snodgrass?
No, I wouldn't, and not for. I actually think Robert Snodgrass is not without some skill. I think he's got some skill. I think he's got some dead ball delivery. But everything I just said about Nathan Holland, funny enough, about transitioning quickly, I just don't think he's that. I think he's the opposite of that. I also think it's, for Robert himself, I think it's completely untenable. I think he's been made to feel very unloved at the club. I think that the PR surrounding it's almost impossible for him to come back in many respects. The best thing that can happen for him and for us is that he continues to do well for Aston Villa, and then he gets a permanent transfer there. I think that's best for all concerned.
Yeah, he's in the best shop window possible where he is at Villa because he's performing well for them. They're climbing the Championship table. Villa are surely considering buying him in the summer, and if not, someone in the Championship will. I think we've decreased his value by gobbling off and sort of making his position at West Ham untenable. He's got to leave in the summer. But where he is, he's slowly, every goal he scores, he adds $500,000 onto his price tag. And for West Ham, that's the best thing we could have, is just leave him there. But anyway, that'll be the last questions we've done. There's a few more, but we'll take them next week because we've been chatting away for nearly an hour now. Gonzo, is there anything you'd like to?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Don't forget to tune in to the second channel. The link is below, and on our main channel, I've got a Your Shout coming up. That's the show. That's the channel with Michael Mondays on. Got a Your Shout coming up tomorrow. Just waiting for a couple of extra clips to come in. Tune into that, and we'll be getting a few more of your opinions. Of course, if you've got your opinion, you want to stick it on a phone, you want to speak into your video, send it in at info@hammerschat.com, and I'll stick you in the show tomorrow as well. I'll be editing it at some point tomorrow afternoon.
Tomorrow night, Thursday night, we've got our preview of the Huddersfield game, and on Friday we've got our second stats video. If you haven't seen the first one, do go check out. It took me and Charlie bloody ages, thank you. And on Friday we've got a player profile, so it's a little bit different to the first one, and we're focusing on one player in particular. So do come along on Friday and have a little look and see who that is. But thank you very much for listening. Congratulations on making it an hour long into the podcast. We'll be doing another one very soon, as we do on January. And drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you tomorrow night.